A man named Dean had a life-changing near-death experience, NDE, after suffering a cardiac arrest. During those critical moments, Dean claimed to have met Jesus, who showed him a vivid vision of a catastrophic disaster in 2025, a calamity eerily reminiscent of the tragic events of 9/11. This vision wasn't just a depiction of devastation, but a warning for humanity to change its course. Dean, a 42-year-old engineer from Texas, lived a quiet, routine life. He was the kind of man who believed in logic and reason, often dismissing anything that ventured into spiritual territory. That all changed on a seemingly normal day in when Dean suffered a sudden cardiac arrest while jogging in his neighborhood. He had no prior health issues and was considered fit for his age. His collapse was unexpected, and paramedics worked frantically to revive him. During those 7 minutes where his heart stopped, Dean experienced something that defied all logic, a journey beyond the confines of this world. As Dean's consciousness slipped away, he described entering an environment bathed in radiant light. He found himself in a tunnel that seemed to stretch infinitely, surrounded by a sense of peace and love so profound it felt otherworldly. The atmosphere was alive, pulsating with an energy he couldn't describe in human terms. Voices, soft and harmonious, echoed around him. These weren't just sounds, they were communications that resonated directly within him, bypassing words entirely. Dean was aware that this wasn't a dream or hallucination. Every detail felt vivid and more real than anything he had ever experienced. He recounted how the tunnel's light grew brighter as he moved forward, but it didn't hurt his eyes. Instead, it enveloped him in warmth and comfort. At the tunnel's end, he saw a figure emanating a presence so extraordinary it brought him to his knees. Without any introduction, Dean knew he was in the presence of Jesus. Jesus stood before him, radiating a love and compassion that were overwhelming. Dean described this moment as one of total surrender, not out of fear, but out of awe. He knew he was in the presence of someone who held the answers to questions he hadn't even asked. Jesus wasn't there to offer comfort alone. He had something urgent to share with Dean, a vision of what could be. The serene atmosphere shifted as Jesus began to reveal a vision. Dean was transported to a bustling city, one filled with towering skyscrapers and people going about their daily routines. But in an instant, everything changed. A loud explosion shattered the calm, and chaos erupted. Buildings crumbled like sandcastles, debris filled the air, and screams of terror echoed through the streets. It was 2025, and the city had become the epicenter of a catastrophic event reminiscent of 9/11. Dean felt as though he was living the experience firsthand. The scene was vivid and horrifying. The choking smoke, the heat of the flames, and the desperate cries of those trapped or injured. Emergency responders were on the scene, risking their lives to save others, but the scale of destruction was overwhelming. The event wasn't a natural disaster. It was a deliberate act, calculated to cause maximum destruction. Amid the chaos, Jesus' voice broke through, steady and filled with sorrow. He explained that the disaster wasn't an act of divine punishment, but the result of human choices. Choices rooted in greed, hatred, and the inability to resolve conflicts peacefully. The pain and suffering unfolding before Dean were the consequences of humanity turning away from compassion and unity. This vision wasn't meant to instill fear, but to serve as a warning. Jesus emphasized that while the disaster was a possible future, it wasn't inevitable. Humanity still had the power to change its course, to prevent such devastation by choosing love and understanding over division and animosity. As the vision continued, Jesus delved deeper into the factors that led to the disaster. Dean was shown scenes of a world plagued by division. Nations were at odds, their leaders more interested in power than the welfare of their people. Societies were fractured, torn apart by prejudice and intolerance. Even at the individual level, selfishness and indifference had become the norm. One of the most impactful images Dean saw was of a leader sitting at a conference table, dismissing opportunities for peace because of personal ambition. This moment, small and seemingly insignificant, was the first domino in a chain of events that led to the tragedy. Jesus highlighted how every action, no matter how minor it seemed, had the potential to shape the future, for better or worse. Dean also witnessed the erosion of trust among people. Families were divided over trivial matters, societies failed to support one another, and acts of kindness were overshadowed by greed and mistrust. This pervasive negativity created an environment where such catastrophic events could thrive. Even amidst the bleakness, there were glimpses of hope. Jesus pointed out individuals who, despite the odds, chose to act with love and compassion. These moments stood out like beacons, proving that even in the darkest times, humanity had the capacity for goodness. Jesus' message to Dean was clear. The power to shape the future lay in humanity's hands. The disaster Dean had witnessed wasn't set in stone. It was a possible outcome, contingent on the choices people made in the present. Jesus urged Dean to share this vision, to act as a messenger and inspire change in those around him. Dean was shown examples of how small, positive actions could ripple outward and create significant change. A single act of kindness could inspire others to do the same, gradually shifting the collective mindset of society. Jesus emphasized that while large-scale changes were important, the real transformation began at the individual level. The responsibility wasn't just for leaders or influential figures. Every person had a role to play in preventing such disasters. Jesus' words resonated deeply with Dean. The path to destruction is built on indifference, but the path to salvation is paved with love. This profound statement left Dean with a sense of urgency. Dean understood that he wasn't just a passive observer in this vision. He was being entrusted with a mission: to awaken others to the reality of their choices and inspire a movement toward unity and compassion. As the vision progressed, Jesus revealed the importance of faith in shaping the world's destiny. Dean, once a man of reason and logic, was shown how faith transcends human understanding. It wasn't about religious dogma or rituals. It was about trusting in a higher power and the deep connection that all human beings shared. Faith, in this sense, was the belief that love and compassion could overcome any obstacle, even those that seemed insurmountable. Jesus explained that when people come together in faith, regardless of their religious affiliations, they tap into a universal energy that unites them. Faith isn't confined to one belief system. It's a universal truth that connects all people. The collective strength of humanity, when directed toward good, could change the course of history. Jesus pointed out that faith had been the cornerstone of many life-changing movements throughout time, from civil rights to social justice. Dean was then shown a group of people gathered in prayer and meditation, their hearts unified in love and hope. Despite the world around them being fractured, this group stood as a beacon of light. Their faith was a quiet but powerful force that could never be extinguished by darkness. Jesus encouraged Dean to spread this message. Faith wasn't just about waiting for divine intervention, but about actively participating in the world's healing. Faith, Jesus said, would be the antidote to the fear and hatred that had caused so much harm. It was through unwavering belief in the goodness of humanity and the possibility of change that people could avoid the disaster Dean had witnessed. This message of faith became the foundation of Dean's mission. The next part of the vision showed Dean how division and conflict were the roots of much of the suffering in the world. People were divided by borders, ideologies, and beliefs. Entire nations fought against each other, while families and societies were torn apart by internal strife. Dean saw a global map, but instead of countries being united by peaceful agreements, they were separated by walls of fear, mistrust, and prejudice. In this vision, Jesus emphasized that the true strength of humanity lies in unity. He shared that the world's problems could not be solved by isolating oneself or viewing others as enemies. Instead, it was through collaboration and mutual respect that the future could be healed. Dean watched as different groups, who had once been divided by their differences, came together to share resources, knowledge, and support. One particularly striking image in the vision was of people from various races and religions standing together in solidarity. They weren't just coexisting, they were actively working together to rebuild what had been broken. The collective power of their unity was so immense that even the most profound challenges seemed surmountable. Jesus spoke of how humanity had the power to heal itself by recognizing its commonalities, not its differences. Dean understood that unity was not about erasing individuality, but about accepting the diversity that made humanity stronger. People didn't have to agree on everything, but mutual respect and shared values could bridge the gaps. Jesus' words rang clear in Dean's mind. Unity is not uniformity. It is the strength in our differences that makes us whole. The next vision Dean witnessed was one of profound love. In it, he saw people from all walks of life reaching out to one another, offering love and kindness without hesitation. Love, as Jesus explained, was the most powerful force in the universe. It was a force that could transcend all barriers, be they social, racial, or ideological. Love wasn't just a feeling, it was an action, a decision to care for others unconditionally. Dean saw the faces of parents comforting their children, neighbors helping neighbors, and strangers offering assistance to those in need. The simple, everyday acts of love, whether through a smile, a kind word, or a helping hand, began to accumulate and spread like wildfire. Jesus made it clear that love was not just a personal sentiment, but a life-changing energy that could heal even the deepest wounds in society. In this vision, Dean was shown how love could disarm hatred. He saw people who had once been enemies, whether due to race, religion, or past grievances, coming together in reconciliation. The walls of animosity that had once separated them crumbled as they shared their pain, listened to one another, and found common ground. This was the power of love, not just to heal individuals, but to heal entire societies and nations. Jesus urged Dean to understand that every act of love, no matter how small, contributed to the collective healing of the world. The more love people gave, the more it would multiply and ripple outward, affecting change in ways they couldn't even imagine. This wasn't just a call for individual kindness, but for a global shift toward compassion and empathy. Dean realized that love was the key to avoiding the catastrophe he had witnessed. As Dean's vision continued, the sense of urgency became undeniable. Jesus spoke to him with a deep sense of gravity, urging him to act immediately. The disaster Dean had seen in 2025 was not a prophecy set in stone, but a potential reality that could unfold if humanity didn't change its course. Jesus emphasized that time was running out. The world could still be saved, but only if people took responsibility for their actions now. Dean was shown countless moments in time where small choices led to bigger consequences. A single act of kindness, or the lack thereof, could tip the balance between peace and chaos. Jesus explained that every individual had the power to make a difference. People often felt powerless in the face of global issues, but the truth was that change always started at the grassroots level. Every act of kindness, every step toward unity, contributed to the world's healing. He was also shown the potential outcomes of inaction. If humanity continued down the path of division, fear, and hatred, the disaster Dean had witnessed would become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The signs were already there: political unrest, social division, and the erosion of trust in institutions. The cracks in society were deepening, but they hadn't yet reached the point of no return. Jesus made it clear that humanity had been given a window of opportunity to change. The next few years were critical. While the future was not set in stone, the choices people made now would determine whether the world spiraled into chaos or whether it would rise to a new level of unity and peace. When Dean finally returned to his body, he felt a profound sense of peace, but also a weighty responsibility. He had seen a glimpse of the potential future, and it was a future he couldn't ignore. He now understood that his life had a greater purpose, one that extended beyond his family, career, and personal ambitions. Dean was determined to share the vision he had witnessed with as many people as possible, to urge them to change their ways before it was too late. He began speaking to local society groups, sharing his near-death experience and the message he had received from Jesus. At first, people were skeptical, but as Dean continued to share his story, more and more individuals began to listen. The message was simple but powerful. Humanity had the power to change the world, but only if people acted now. Dean's newfound purpose wasn't about spreading fear, it was about spreading hope. He believed that by igniting a movement of love, compassion, and unity, the world could be steered away from the disaster he had witnessed. He saw his role as a catalyst, someone who could encourage others to take action, no matter how small. Every day, Dean worked tirelessly to inspire others to take ownership of their choices and their impact on the world. He knew that this wasn't a task for one person alone, but for everyone. Together, humanity could create a future of peace and harmony, one choice at a time. The final part of Dean's journey was a simple but profound realization. The disaster of 2025, though devastating, was not an unavoidable fate. It was a potential reality, one that could be prevented if enough people chose to act differently. Jesus had given him a powerful gift, the knowledge that the future was shaped by the choices people made in the present. Dean understood now that no one was too small to make a difference, whether it was in their relationships, societies, or on a global scale. Every act of kindness and unity contributed to the world's healing. The power of choice, when guided by love, could alter the course of history. Jesus' message was clear. The future was in humanity's hands. The disaster Dean had witnessed was a wake-up call, a reminder that every day was an opportunity to choose love over fear, unity over division, and compassion over indifference. Humanity could still change the world. It just required the courage to act now. Dean's life had been transformed, and he knew that he had to share this message with the world. The power to heal the world rested in the choices of every individual. It was time for humanity to choose wisely, to choose love, and to choose peace. Dean's near-death experience isn't just a story, it's a profound warning and a call to reflection. His vision of a potential disaster in 2025 is a stark reminder of the consequences of division and apathy, but also a testament to the power of love and unity to change the course of history. If this story moved you, consider sharing its message. small acts of love can ripple into significant change. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire and challenge us to reflect on the paths we choose.